morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it's the 20th day of May 2025. Welcome to our show today. And just a word to everybody. Today we're starting out with Lawful Defense with John Tatar, and then I'm going to a very interesting man that I met at Mar-a-Lago, Rolando Silva. And he's a 35-year law enforcement veteran. His resume is just incredible. What this guy has done and the honors that he's achieved. He and his wife are just a lovely couple, and we're going to talk about ethics and honor in service, amongst other things. I think it's going to be fairly inspirational, and he's just a very nice guy. Him and his wife are very nice. So with that said, I'm going to bring John in today. What's happening, John?
Everything and anything you want to.
Wow, I'm telling you.
It all?
What's that?
Does that cover it all?
It should. It should, I suppose. So not really sure what to say about it, but there you go. So what are we going to talk about today, sir?
Well, there's several different things we could talk about, but the most important, since you talked earlier today before we got online, was about families that these alphabet agencies are harassing, and we can give them a solution so they're not being harassed by these families. But we probably want to talk about that specifically, how we can stop the harassment of these alphabet agencies, including the police and anybody else that's harassing the public. How to prevent that harassment or stop that harassment.
Well, I was reading something this morning and I read this to you, and I think I do think this is significant. Let me pull it up here a minute. It's the Social Security's Act of 1935. Last night I interviewed a family, or some people that are fighting for a family, the Rivera family, who CPS, the largest human trafficking, child trafficking organization probably in the world, because it's all connected, but certainly in the United States, who also has lost, I don't know, 800,000 to 1 million of or at least reported children, who is a complete and total abject failure, broken the law, and doesn't exist under Norton versus Shelby County. One of the paragraphs within the act, the Social Security's Act of 1935, says, nothing in this act shall be construed as authorizing any federal official, agent, or representative in carrying out any of the provisions of this act to take charge of any child over the objection of either of the parents of such child or of the person standing in loco parentis to such child.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all illegal.
If it doesn't exist, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist.
Right.
If it's not spelled out in the Constitution or in the laws as written, it doesn't exist. They cannot make stuff up on the fly as they feel like. Government officials, government public functionaries have no authority to make stuff up. If it's not written in the act, it doesn't exist.
Okay, I got a real bone to pick right now too with the Anti-Semitic Act that Congress just passed. I really think that people need to understand exactly what they're doing here. So we've got all but 2 in Congress that have AIPAC, which is Israeli handlers that are assigned to them and contribute to their campaigns so they can get in, arguably. We also have dual citizenship with Israel with how many people in Congress? A lot, like most of them. And so I'm kind of concerned about this because they're literally voting themselves the ability to not be questioned. And they hide behind, oh, I'm a Jew. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm a woman. Oh, I'm black. Oh, I'm white. Who in the heck allows this sort of nonsense to go on in America? We're all the same here. And I have this feeling that whenever they protect a class of people that way, or a specially protected class of people, that they're doing it to hide criminality. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
We have no group of people, no classes of people. People cannot be part of a so-called group, organization, class, or whatever. If you're Jews, if you're a Jew, you're a Jew. If you're Catholic, you're Catholic. If you're Protestant, you're Protestant. Religious
Right.
wise. If you're Muslim, you're Muslim. The thing is, in the Republic, not a democracy, which is what they're pushing, is a democracy. When you have classes of people, you're in a democracy. When you have a republic, you have individual rights. Your rights are the same as mine. It's the same as the Jewish rights, the same as the Catholic rights and the Muslim rights. They're all the same. We have the same rights. They're individual rights, and they cannot be stepped on by these so-called public functionaries that are in Congress. So
Right.
that act is really usurpation, act of usurpation through a commission. They're committing an act of usurpation. And if we ratify it, and I'm using the terms of Norton versus Shelby County, but if we ratify that act by following it and believing it and paying attention to it, then we are to blame.
Yeah, I'm really amazed. This false victim status. It's like I wanted to say this morning because I'm kind of sick of listening to everybody being a victim of someone. There's always two in conflict. Okay, I'm being victimized by this, or I'm being victimized by that. It's like, and so now they use that to divide us, and I'm so done with it because it's like, you know who you're being victimized by? Evil. It's like every single one of us can claim that we've been mistreated, or that somebody doesn't like us for some reason or another. Some people don't like men. Some people don't like women. Some people don't like themselves, and so it's like to sit there and say that it's localized or point the finger at one or the other is ridiculous. It's pure evil behind it that divides people, and it's a misfired analysis to say it any other way.
Well, you are a victim. You are creating your own jail cell. You are creating your own shell to live in, and that is your victimization of your particular group of people. But we have no group rights in America. It doesn't exist. Group rights exists only in a democracy. Now, if you continue to play this game that you have a group right, then you're pushing the democracy. Mm-hmm. And if you're pushing the democracy, then the democracy is if one group of people don't like you, 51% say we don't like you. You're the 49%. You're out of luck. That's a democracy. We don't have a democracy in America. We never have, never ever had. And in fact, Pacific State says if you talk democracy, demolish it. The Democrats that have been pushing a democracy all this time have been pushing a democracy for the purpose of dividing us, dividing our families, creating, children that could call the local police departments and get their parents arrested because they couldn't have their box of Cheerios this morning. This kind of nonsense is going on only because we the people have allowed it. And how do we stop that? Well, there are many ways to stop it, and that's what we should be looking at, is how do you stop an organization such as the Child Protective Services from coming in and sitting or taking your children from you or filing charges against you? How do you stop that? We can stop that. We know how to stop that. And the answer to that problem is Norton versus Shelby County. Because if that department called Child Protective Services is not in the Constitution, state constitution, federal constitution, charter, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And those people that are sitting in those positions, collecting money from the government, are stealing money for a position that doesn't exist. So how do you stop that? Well, the first way to do it is, but you've got to be willing to put the time and energy into it. Number one, you got to read and understand Norton versus Shelby County. We've talked about it. We've read it over 3 or 4 times in our group. We will probably do it again because it is a critical case, and we will. But you could get it off the internet. You can call me on the telephone. You can You can write to magnificentrepublic.com and find it because we have it available, and we are definitely can talk to you about any particular part of it that you don't understand. But if you know it, if you can use it, if you understand where to put it to, how to put it to use, then you can stop these alphabet agencies from causing you trouble because they don't exist. And if you can put the letter together properly and send them 3 letters, and why do you send 3 letters out generally to a public functionary that you want to get their attention? Why do you send 3 instead of 1? Or why do you send letters instead of telephone calls or instead of emails? Why do you? Emails are easy, telephone calls are easy too and fast, but why do you send them a hard letter? And that hard letter has to have an affidavit. In other words, it has to be a sworn statement by you. Why do you do that?
Because you have to have proof and timestamps that it was sent out on certain days, and then it gets entered into the record instead of hearsay.
That's right. It becomes court documents. It becomes an affidavit, a sworn statement in a court. If you don't send it as an affidavit, it's hearsay. You're right. You're absolutely correct.
What I've gone to is going and having a notary actually stamp the communications that I'm filing with the court.
You can do that. I have not done that all the time. I have done it once in a while. The reason I don't do it all the time is I think it's unnecessary. The courts do say that it has to go certified as a certified letter. Green card return receipt is good, is not a bad thing to have, but not always necessary. And it's a little extra money. And if people are on a tight budget and they want to cut costs, that's where you don't want to cut costs. You don't need to send the green card. You send it certified, but you got to send it certified. You got to have proof that you sent it and the date and time stamped by the post office. So there are several steps that you have to follow in order for this affidavit to get to the public functionary that you want to challenge. And you challenge them by, if you understand Norton, you have to be a de jure department, that is a department created constitutionally. It's in the Constitution. It's in writing, because these public functionaries that are sitting in these positions, and most of them are administrative, and they are not elected. And so they believe that they have the power because of the administration process. They think that they have the power to do whatever they want to. They don't have any power. And so you ask them to prove their de jure status, which is their constitutional status. And if they don't prove their de jure status, you give them 30 days, and you tell them to do it again, and you tell them to do it the 3rd time. And if they can't prove their de jure status by the 3rd time, then you have to be willing to file a case in court. That's the T. And most of these individuals that are sitting in those positions don't want to be sued, because then they have to hire an attorney, then they have to go through the process. Their name is on the record as being sued for whatever the claim may be, and so they tend to back down a lot of times. So once upon a time, and I can't say that it was because of my letter, but I will say it anyway. During the COVID nonsense that was going on, our illustrious governor sent the power to get people vaccinated through the Department of Health and Human Services. So I got myself together because I was pretty much involved in the COVID-19 stuff, and I was writing documents for people on the religious end that wanted to take a religious exemption. So I wrote that particular director, and I don't remember what his name was, and I said, prove your de jure status, because if you don't, then you are taking money from the government illegally, from the public illegally, and you can be held liable. And I put a whole bunch of different stuff in there. Prove your de jure status. Prove that you exist. And I sent that letter and watched it, followed it through the post office because it went certified. It was an affidavit. It went and it arrived on Friday. And Monday, I find out he resigned. I'm not saying my letter had anything to do with his resignation. I don't know if it did.
Do you have a copy of that letter?
Pardon?
Do you have a copy of that letter?
Oh, I do.
Do you? Can you share it?
I have a copy of everything I do.
Well, I kind of knew that, but can you share it with me?
Sure, I can.
That would be great.
But I have to find it. I mean, it's in my computer, but I have to look it up.
Don't you hate that when you save off a whole bunch of stuff and then all of a sudden you're looking for it and you can't find it?
Oh, I know. I can probably put my finger on it pretty quick.
We had, well, then your filing system is better than mine sometimes, or I save a lot more information.
Well, so let's see if maybe I can pull it up right now and send it to you.
Yeah. Pull it up there and take a look at it.
If I can.
Yeah, I was looking for a video this morning. I've been kind of looking for it. I didn't post it until they voted in this anti-Semite act. And I'm like, wait a minute here. This is a First Amendment problem that we have, that if they can pass that, and you can't say anything as long as somebody is I'm sorry, wearing a yarmulke, that, I got a problem with this because you can't have protected classes of people. This is one of the problems that I have with, honestly, and I'm going to say it, and I know I'm going to make a whole bunch of people mad, but why don't we get them all mad at once? The Native American land, with the casinos being built on Native American land. Do you know why they did that? Because they're money laundering like there's no tomorrow through these casinos, and they've got hotels are always next to them. What a great place to traffic children. And they can't be investigated because it's a foreign nation. Unless, of course, you're the Knoll brothers, where the cops took them right over to the reservation and interrogated them there. I don't know how, it's like they kind of just like make up the rules as they go. And as long as it works for them, they don't pay attention to the rules, thinking nobody's going to hold them accountable for it. And they don't, because they're all in bed together. They're all covering for each other. There's also, I want to show you this. This is crazy. Did you see that what the bunch of crap that Nestle came up with? Nestle came up with the fact that yesterday, that in fact, Benson violated campaign finance laws, but there's nothing on the books that's a penalty for it. So Nestle just like, well, there's nothing there, so I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah, well, she's not, Nestle's a crook, just like Benson's a crook, just like Whitmer's a crook. They're all, the three are crooks, and they were installed in our government during the election fraud that's been going on. So we know who they are, and we know what they've been doing. And so Benson is not going to be held responsible for anything she does by Nestle, because they're working together to hide each other's criminality. That's what's going on in Michigan.
Yeah, check this out. So here's the bridge. Here's Bridge, Michigan. And this is what it says. So Jocelyn Benson violated campaign finance law, but won't be punished because they can do whatever they want to do, and there's no repercussions. Yeah. If it were me, oh my gosh, I'd be in jail over it. Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson violated campaign finance laws by hosting a campaign press conference in the state building. The ruling came from Attorney General Nestle's office, which said a reminder and warning was appropriate sanction. What a loser, you know? Nestle's a loser. Benson, a Democrat, is also running for governor and said she moved her campaign press conference inside because of cold weather. Boo-hoo, Benson, boo-hoo. Can't stand outside so we can break the law and say we're too cold. So that's what happened there. They can do whatever they want when it comes to us, and they just don't. So I think one of the things about it is when they break the law, guess what it does? It gives us the right to say, well, you let Benson off the hook for this. I think a warning is sufficient. You can't apply the law separately. So, it's like anything else. Use their weapons against them.
Well, the election fraud business is part of, again, these organizations that think they have immunity. They don't. And Norton versus Shelby County spells it out. They do not have immunity of any kind.
Yeah. So kind of interesting. Feels like it's going to be a kind of a slow day today.
You think so?
Yeah, yesterday was a really, really tough day because I'm getting ready to file another lawsuit today. This is going to be fun. So I'm actually having fun with creating, and it's not myself by myself. I got a couple of people that we're meeting and working on these things together, just so I can bounce things off of other people. This is going to be a real fun one because it's an open and closed case that they violated the law. And so this is going to be fun. I don't know why I enjoyed this so much. I just do. I like holding people accountable when they break the law, and they do it intentionally.
Okay, I'm going to send my letter to you.
Okay, this one's a campaign finance, not a campaign finance. This is a campaign or an election lawsuit that I'm filing today.
Okay.
So, which will be kind of fun. All right, what is going on here? Let's try this again. What did I do?
Well, it's going to take me a second here.
Yeah, it's going to take us all a minute.
So bear with me.
I pulled up an email here, and I don't know why, but my email is stuck. So we may or may not be able to get it going today. Let me see. I'm going to close this down. It's gotten weird.
Do you want this to go to ustpm.org?
You can send it. Don't say my emails out loud, okay? But that one's okay. That one's okay. Yeah, you can go ahead and send it there. You can send it to the normal one that you send it to too. I'm going to reboot my email on my email in a minute and see if I can pull this thing up. Oh, there we go. And now we're working.
That's why I only gave you the end of it. If nobody knows the email, the beginning part of it, so they don't really know the email.
Yeah, the USTPM is appropriate at any time because I'm the chairman of the Constitution Party in Michigan. So, all right, come on, let's stop this nonsense. This is wild.
State of Michigan.
Well, there it is. Okay, you can send it to my other normal one too if you want to do that one, or I'll go to my chairman account.
It's going to your chairman account.
Okay, I can make that work.
And so, getting back to how to deal with these alphabet agency public functionaries, again, we as a group, which meet on Wednesdays on Zoom and meet on, actually this Wednesday coming up, we're going to meet at Nicola's live between 5 and 9. So if anybody wants to come out and see us and talk to us and shake our hand or just sit down and have dinner with us and see what's going on, you're welcome to do that. You don't need a special invite. If you want a special invite, text me or email me or call me, and I'll send you an invite, and I'll put you on our mailing.
I'll bring up my my toys here. Hang on. Takes me a minute.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Ta-da! There's John Tatar at the Magnificent Republic, Mr. Tatar. So, yeah. So, well, is there anything else you want to address on this subject right now of taking the kids? Because we had this Rivera family. What happened is they decided that they didn't want their newborn vaccinated. The doctor said, you either get that baby vaccinated right here and now, or I'm calling CPS on you. The dad said, just give me a clean bill of health. I'm out of here, because they kept trying to pressure him. So what I want to say to people right now is I see a lot of people, though it shouldn't be that way, you got to kind of protect yourself. If you know you've got a bad doctor or one that's going to push the issue, don't go.
Why are you going to that doctor to begin with?
Why would you go, or why would you get involved in organizations at all when you know that they're going to push the issue and try to flex on you? There's no reason to put yourself in that kind of a situation, in my opinion. There's other doctors out there. You can do a personal boycott on all this stuff. If something is being hostile, why fight it head on just to be right? Fight the battles that you know you are going to you're going to win a measurable gain, not just to be right. Just to be right is a dumb argument.
You do know that doctors in general are being paid for all the vaccinations that they give by
absolutely,
and so they can buy their Mercedes or whatever using your money to do so. So, and I think pregnancies take like 9 months, don't they? So you have 9 months to find a doctor that doesn't press vaccinations, that doesn't force you to do that. I have a daughter who just had a baby just recently and did do that process, went through to find out who was not going to force a vaccination. She found a pediatrician, found a doctor, and found a hospital. They're out there. They're out there that don't force that, because there are doctors out there that really know the damage a vaccine does to people, and he's not interested in padding his pocket on your behalf and on your death and on your sickness. We do know that the pharmaceutical industry's purpose is to keep you sick. That's the whole purpose of the pharmaceutical industry. They're not there to help you, to fix you. Here we have, all my life I've been hearing this fight on cancer, the March of Dimes, and they haven't figured out how to fight cancer yet. We sent a person to the moon. We didn't really, but we say we sent the person to the moon, but we can't find a way to cure cancer. How idiotic is that process?
For real, I can tell you what, having been diagnosed with incurable cancer was what they told me. I went 4 times because I was experimenting on what I was going to do. I'm like, fine, if they can't fix it, guess what? I'm going to. I'll figure this thing out. I went 4 times to the cancer doctor, and I was like, this is worthless. I'm like, they could have cared less about what I was doing to improve my health and looking into some other things. They're like, you just let us worry about it and you just live your life. I'm like, screw that. You guys can't fix anything. So guess what? I'm going to figure it out myself. I never went back.
There you go.
And it was like, it's like, I never went back. I tried, I honestly, if you really want to know what I did, I tried everything that they told me would kill me, because I figured there was probably some truth in it. I researched what the lethal dosage was and then took it down to if there was any anecdotal evidence that it worked. I'm like, okay, I'm not afraid to die, first of all, but I'm going to try this. And I would look at the lethal dosage, and I'd go down to start way at the other end and see what happened, right? It's all in the dosage. If you chuck down a whole bottle of ibuprofen, you're going to have a real bad day. Any of their medicines that they have out there, it is all about the dosage. You can't take unlimited of whatever it is. You've got to be smart, and you've got to know how to work with it. So that's what I did. I just went ahead and said, okay, well, if I take this much, I'm going to have a real bad day. So I'm going to go down to the minimum dosages and see if there's any change. There's actually a doctor down in Panama, and she got kicked out of the AMA. Her name is Jennifer Daniels. And I started seeing what she was doing because I was looking all over the place and going, well, this is kind of a fun adventure. Let's see what we can do, right? And I looked at what she was doing, and I said, okay, well, this makes a lot of sense. And I tried a bunch of different things. I can tell you exactly how it works. I found an alternative doctor. I would go in every time I'd go in, she'd sit there and take notes for 2 hours over what I was experimenting on. And she stopped practicing half time and went into research because she could see the difference that I was making. So, if you can drop incurable cancer 30% in 28 days, it's curable. And so,
of course it is, but it's a great disease for the pharmaceutical industry to produce their radiation, their processes, and make big money on it.
You bet.
Those pills that my dad was on, I couldn't get him off of it no matter what I did, because he had a wife that pushed him into it. And this was a problem. So, even though I went there and when I was with him, he never did any of that. But the minute I left, he was back doing those kind of things. And, it killed him at the end.
Yeah.
He did live a good life and a long life, but nonetheless, he didn't have to go out that way.
Right. Well, my son one of my sons was diagnosed with cancer. And they basically said, we can kill this kind of cancer with radiation and chemo, but you will die of another cancer in 20 years. That was what one of those things that, man, that's a bad day. I'm going to tell you that right there. I'd way rather be diagnosed with it myself than have somebody I care about be diagnosed with. But then after you go through that, it's kind of not scary anymore. That's what I found at any rate. But so yeah, it's kind of one of those things that holds no sway over me anymore because there's lots and lots of ways to deal with it. But so he denied treatment, and he's been cancer free for I don't know, I think how old he is, for almost 20 years.
Well, that's great. But you know what it is? It's getting the terrain, your body, to not accept it, to fight it. And it's
mostly in your mind. I can tell you that. Well, it's your attitude, and it's if you've got an attitude that's, oh, I've got to listen to the doctor, I've got to do everything, blah blah blah, you're probably not going to kick it.
They're going to kill
you. You will likely have a bad day, or a bad outcome. So I do believe that. I think that it's mostly your attitude, but mostly things in your life. The way your life goes is mostly attitude. It's attitude. It's how it's your mindset. It's your, and the nurses and doctors will tell you that if you go in there and you've been diagnosed with cancer and you're going in there going, yep, it's hopeless, going to die, you're probably going to die. Okay. And the nurses will tell you that too. If you even have, say terminal cancer or incurable cancer, and you go in there going, okay, I'm going to be the first to cure it. Guess what? You probably will be, because you're going to think outside of the box and not accept their diagnosis. I'd never accept a diagnosis from anyone whatsoever.
I agree with you. And if you only go and get one diagnosis from one doctor, then you're a fool.
Well, what if you get a bunch of diagnoses from doctors? They're all part of the same club.
Well,
I wouldn't listen to that crap for anything. I'd be going to, everybody else on the planet.
You can do a naturopath. You can do get other options from different fields, and not just the allopathic medicine people, because they're all taught in the same university. They all been paid for by Rockefellers. foundation to teach drugs, and that's what they are. They're just glorified drug pushers in white coats.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a drug pusher.
They're there to push the drugs so they can buy their Mercedes or whatever they like to drive.
You know what? My mom, when she was in the hospital right before she died, they were. I came in one day and they said, "Well, we're just getting ready to give her remdesivir," and I'm like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "She's not going to have that." I said, "Enough." And as soon as I said, "No, you're not," I got these. I was just horrifically attacked by the staff. Oh, they were going to ban me from coming into the hospital, and it was like if you don't do this or capitulate, we're going to have you physically removed from the hospital. Here my mom is laying, with she was not in any good shape to be by herself, but they're still doing the same crap of isolating people. That's what they do. They want to isolate people, especially when they're weak. And I believe the hospitals are killing fields.
Oh yeah, they are.
They are absolutely killing fields. If you go into the hospital or somebody you love, you better make sure somebody's in there as a patient advocate. And one of the gals, it was kind of funny. She was somebody who worked in the thing, and I just looked right at her and I said, after they effectively pissed me off, I looked at her and I said, "We all know that the hospitals are killing fields, so you guys don't cure anything anymore." She's like, triggered, runs down the aisle crying. And I'm like, well, hopefully that landed a little bit of a behavioral modification situation here.
Well, getting back to that family with the child and the process of the vaccinations, they're kind of after the fact. Doesn't mean that they can't do something. And the something that they have to do is start getting on the offensive. And that's what people in our country need to do. We have to get back on the offensive and stop being on the defensive all the time. Stop trying to defend ourselves in our positions, but be offensive in going forward and going after them. Because they're really weak and they're chickens, most of them. They're hiding behind their office, which, according to Norton versus Shelby County, doesn't exist. So they really are hiding behind a fictitious piece of cardboard or whatever you want to call it. They're hiding behind something that doesn't exist. And you can punch a hole through there. All you have to do is be willing to do it. And you can, we are much more powerful than our government, much more powerful. They can have all the bullets and guns and police and soldiers and whatever they have to protect them, because that's what they need. They need the police to protect the cities from the public going after the cities. That's why the police are there. So
your policy enforcers for most of the local police is. I mean,
we do have the power, but we have to be willing to exercise it. We don't have to do it violently. In fact, we shouldn't do it violently. Because they do have the guns and bullets. Like I say, when people get stopped by the police for a speeding ticket, don't deal with the cop. He's got a gun. You don't have one. And that puts you at a disadvantage. So you don't deal with the police officer for giving you the ticket. You thank him very much, and then you take him to court. And if you take him to court appropriately, you beat him in court. And once you beat him in court once or twice or three times, that police officer is going to think very carefully on the fourth or fifth person he pulls over. Is this guy going to haul me into court? Now we're going to be fighting this battle again. So, and we just had a gentleman who got a ticket in Virginia, and the ticket was given to him for reckless. You ever hear of anything called that?
For reckless?
Reckless, yeah.
The heck does that mean?
That's what I said. He was driving. He was traveling on a mountain.
Reckless driving.
Traveling.
Okay.
No, not reckless driving. It was just reckless.
Reckless.
He was traveling in Virginia, and he was backing off of a and I'm not sure if it was a ramp or whatever he was, because he couldn't see where he was going. So he was backing, and he ended up in a ditch. So he had to call and get a wrecker to pull him out. And the police officer pulled him over and asked him for his traveling permit, driver's license. And he didn't have one. And the police officer said, well, if you had a license, I'd have let you go, but you don't have one, so I'm going to write you a ticket. And the ticket was for reckless. Not having a driver's license, not driving reckless, because he wasn't driving. His car wasn't moving. It was in a ditch. So he was stopped for reckless. So we put a document together for him. It's about a 17 or 18 page document, and sent that to the Virginia and to the police officer. So you got to send it to the police officer because he's the one that filed the ticket. So he's the one that's got to answer it according to Michigan court rules. But you're asking, well, how can I use Michigan court rules in Virginia? Well, Article 4, Section 2 of the federal Constitution says what's good in one state is good in another state. So if the laws in one state say something and the laws in the other state don't, you can still use the laws in your state, because once that law is presented, it's good across the entire United States. So we wrote the 15, 17 page or whatever it was, 17 page, maybe it was 23 pages, I don't remember. We wrote that document and we used, you got to answer it, and we sent it to the police officer. Now, what do you think that police officer is going to do when he opens that 23 page document and starts reading it? First of all, he's probably a high school grad that went through police academy. Maybe he's got a 4-year college degree. But still in all, that's a 23 page document of a straight law. What's he going to do with that? He's going to choke on it. And so, and most police officers will choke on it, will not be able to answer it. And they're required to answer it. So now,
I tell you what's really bad is that we've got both sides playing against actual ethics, what's right, and people are playing games. It's like in the court system, the courts, it's all playing games. It's who's going to outmaneuver the other person. This is one of those things that it was really disturbing to me at the beginning, because we all know that there's really good law enforcement officers out there, and there's failure on both sides. And you know what I mean? There's good cops, there's bad cops, there's people that have broken the law, there's people that are unjustly charged. And there's really no justice that's going on out there right now because everyone is playing a game.
What's the law when you're traveling?
You don't have to have it. You can travel. There's nothing to regulate it.
You're absolutely correct. There is no regulation for the right to travel.
You have the right to move around or travel. They can't regulate your driver's license. They can't regulate a license plate on the car. They've got no right to do any of this.
Drivers now, when you talk about driving, you're talking about what? You're talking about commerce. So driver's license covers commerce. But people that are getting tickets for 10 over the speed limit or 5 over the speed limit don't understand the difference between traveling and driving. And of course, the driver's license, it's because of our ignorance. And I think what did God say? God said, or Jesus said, that people will perish because of their ignorance of the law, because of their ignorance, basically.
Lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge was the one.
Yes.
So here we have a lot of people that are running around in a motor vehicle, and they don't know whether they're traveling or they're driving. And they don't know the difference between the two. And of course, we have those that are really reckless. I have them speeding up and down my street from time to time in the middle of the night with their loud mufflers just to wake the public up. That's I don't know what that is. That's not only being reckless, it's being in violation of the republic, because you're not supposed to violate other people's rights. Remember, your rights end at the end of your nose. You have all kinds of rights in the world, but they end at the end of your nose. You can't push your process or your evilness onto somebody else. That's not in the form of the republic. So you don't know how to live in a republic. and you probably don't deserve to live in a republic.
Yeah.
We have a republic, and we haven't been taught those things when we go to school, what a republic is and how we're supposed to behave in a republic, or what we're supposed to do, or how we're supposed to act. And that becomes part of you don't vote because you're too lazy to get to the voting polls, or you don't want to stand on your 2 feet because you're afraid, so you go hire a professional attorney, and he rakes you over the coals and steals your money. Or you go to a professional doctor who tells you that you got to take these 25 pills in order to stay alive. Or you go to a professional accountant who says, well, you owe the IRS $35,000, so you end up paying it. That's the nonsense that we've gone through in our life. We go to the professional that supposedly knows, because we don't want to take the time to learn. We're too busy doing whatever, watching the boob.
Not being adults and taking care of business.
There you go. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So
well, look what they did during COVID, John, when they tried to make business owners their law enforcement. They tried to make business owners their arm of law enforcement, and have business owners shut things down, close off people's income. They went after each and every one of us to turn people in. That's still going on, to turn people in, so that they've weaponized the brown shirt mentality in order for them. And I'm like, you're going to ask me to do something as a business owner, then first of all, you're going to have to pay me for this. I don't work for you people for free. And I'm already, no matter what it is. And second of all, if you ask me to do something that is illegal, unethical, or unconstitutional, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. And I don't care what you throw at me. I'm not going to be coerced into jumping into your little satanic global elite rule of suppressing or damaging, or in the case of Michigan, murdering the people.
You're not going to ratify their behavior?
No. I'm a rebel, John.
And that's part of the process. If we choose not to ratify their behavior, they don't have any power. They only have power because we ratify it.
Yeah. I can't wait.
That's part of Norton versus Shelby County.
As soon as I win, I've got like 2 cases that I think 2 to 3 cases that are going to resolve here pretty quickly, actually. And I can't wait to talk. I'm going to wait until we're past that point. And I'm going to talk about these cases in length and the strategy behind them. And what's going to come next? So just so you know, we were able to stop the group that I've kind of been working with up in Gladwin. We've stopped the destruction of the dam up at Trout Lake. One of the guys was up there talking. He's gonna be on tomorrow. He was talking to somebody from the DNR. He got out of his truck. Guy didn't know who he was, and he said, "So, how far are you gonna draw this lake down, and what's the plan?" And the guy's like, "Well," he said, and he didn't know who he was talking to. He said, the higher ups have gotten so much pressure that they decided to repair the dam and leave it. So when we get together and use our voices to tell them what we're not going to put up with, they have to have pushback. They're like little kids that are like, I want, and I want, and I want, and I want, until somebody tells them no. The same thing with the millage defeat up in Midland. I helped with that as much as I could too. And these guys were amazing. They defeated this big millage that was absolutely theft for no reason other than the teachers union and the communist education department was like, I want. Now DTE is going for a rate hike. We're going to have to address this for 5.5 I got to think of the number. It's over $500 million. Every single person in Michigan is going to get an 11.1 increase in their energy bill. And the reason, because they need to upgrade their electrical system, their electrics. And this is a gas company, right? So why are they increasing their improvements to their electric infrastructure? Answer me that. It's because they're still trying to push us all into electronics. They're clear cutting the north half of Michigan. I've seen it, and sending the trees over 5 inches. They're clear cutting everything up there. They're sending it to be burned to create power.
Well, remember that in a republic, we hire these people called representatives that are supposed to be pushing for rate hikes for DTE and so on and so forth. It is not up to the public to vote in a tax. It is up to the public functionaries in Lansing to say, yes, we need this money, and therefore we're going to vote for it. The reason we have a republic is because if you have a representative that voted for that and you don't like it, you can kick him out of office. And if you vote as a public, the general public in a democracy, then you voted in your own tax. And if you don't like it, well, too bad you voted it in. 51% of the public voted in for this particular tax, and the other 49%, the heck with you. You have to pay it because the 51% voted for it. That's why a democracy needs to be annihilated every time that word comes up. And anybody that says that we're a democracy, they have to be thrown out of office. They have to be tar and feathered, actually.
It shows their ignorance of the law. It's just like these unconstitutional nonsense acts that they've passed. But we don't want to talk about the Social Security Act of 1935 and where you may not take children institutionally in the United States of America. This is a problem. I want to show you something. This is kind of cool. I told you I found that video I was looking at, and I'm going to play that at the end of the show. If anybody wants to see it, I am going to post it. Now, with that said, I like controversial things for myself. I will not drag anybody into my craziness, but I will hit subjects head on, right? I do not agree with everything in this video. However, with that said, I think that we need to, if we're going to start talking about the conflict in the Middle East, we can't be tied into our biases. Evil is evil. I want killing of people to stop. I don't care which side it's on. In fact, I had somebody ask me this at a Arabs for Trump meeting, because I like to go to all of the small groups, and I love my friends in Arabs for Trump. Okay, been to pretty much everything, and we were one gal from Lebanon came up to me and she said, what do you think? Which side are you on? Are you on the side of Israel or on the side of the Palestinians? And my answer to her was, I'm not there. I am not going to weigh in on this discussion. There's so many nuances that a person like me does not have access to, that I'm not going to weigh in on this. I'm on the side of peace. That's what God requires of us. I am on the side of peace, and I'm not going to get dragged into these low IQ discussions that are there for political reasons, because people are in that I want materialistic nonsense mentality. I want to stop seeing people and families torn apart and people dying. But this came up, and I think this is kind of interesting with this act, this anti-Semite act that came up. Let's define what a Semite actually is before we get into this, because and take sides on this. I think it requires some investigation. I think it requires some contemplation. And what is the goal? Is it to go my sports team, go? Whether it's Republican or Democrat, because it's a Hegelian dialect, or if it's men versus women, let's go into all of it. I can make sure I drag everybody into this discussion right now or anything. It is that we are people, and we are people under God, and we should be standing for this as people who serve God in this nation. And that requires a non-emotional reaction to things, being able to sift through the information without biases, and trying to find out and understand what both sides are saying so we can get to peace. And when you look at what President Trump's doing right now in the Middle East, I think it's brilliant. He's got different groups of people that are actually finding things in common in order to create peace. He's not going to run right up through the middle. That's not what he does. He's smarter than that. He is way smarter than that, because you can't force people who have ideological differences just to go, oh yeah, you're right, I'm going to put my weapons down. It doesn't work that way. And it's presumptuous to think that it will work that way. He goes in there and he finesses people and gets them talking together. That's what conflict mitigators do. That's what I do. I do a lot of conflict mediation. And when I watch what he's doing, I just kind of sit back and I just kind of laugh. I'm like, the guy's absolutely brilliant. And when I hear people going after what Cash and Bongino did this week and said, oh, we're not going to bring the Epstein list out, I'm like, okay, there's way more going on behind the scenes than that. And I'm okay with that, because I think we need to let people play out what they're doing. And we voted President Trump in office. We voted. Now we can hold everybody accountable, which is great. But you don't just every time something happens, go to an automatic emotional reaction and go, oh no, they've turned, they're bad guys. Man, talk about a lack of faithfulness. And I don't know. I'm not there, but I think we need to look at things like this and actually define what is a Semite. Semites come from Shem. It's not Jewish. That was a tribe. It's going back. That pretty much, from what I understand, includes everybody from the Middle East. So the terms, as we've learned by studying the law and the Constitution, the terms have been changed in order to mislead people and divide us. We've got to get past this emotional reaction and start thinking smarter and serve God in this world. That's the last word I have to say on it. So anything you want to say here, John? We're going to go into my next segment with Rolando Silva, Rolo. And this is going to be, Rollo is going to be, it's going to be fun conversation. So on ethics and bringing God into our world, that's exactly what we're going to do, is bring God into our world and talk about encouraging and that sort of thing. Oh, I think I lost him. Let's see what happened here.
Well, I kind of said everything I needed to say today regarding the liability, the notice of liability that people are pushing. This is all about the republic. We need to understand what the republic is, that we are a republic, that the Constitution says we're a republic. We are not a democracy. We have no democracy involved at all in this country. So we, the people, need to understand what the republic is all about. And the quickest way to do it, and the real way to understand it, is to understand Norton versus Shelby County, because it spells it out. It says it exactly what it is.
Right. And just for everybody to know, anybody that's trying to push us to war, civil war, kinetic war of any kind, you just got thrown in the stupid person's bucket. Because the pen is mightier than the sword. We have to know the law. We have to know the process to create peace. We do not want to go into a conflict, because once that starts, where does it end? It doesn't end. The precedent for that is already there. We want to work for peace and peace throughout the world. So thanks for being on today, John. Guys, I'm going to take a 1-minute break and I'll be on.
Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks for being on today. I always like starting the day with you on Tuesday, because we're friends. We've talked enough for enough years right now that it's always fun to be on with you. So thanks for all your time, your expertise, the fact that you're a colonel, and not only that, you're a history teacher and an expert on the Constitution, and you're my friend, and I just love you to pieces, John. Thank you for everything that you do for educating people for this nation, and doing it in a very educated, peace-inducing way. So we'll see. John will be on next week, Tuesday. So we'll see you next week. Have a great Memorial weekend, John. And I'll be on in 1 minute exactly with my next guest, Rolando Silva.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg. It's the 20th day of May, 2025, and welcome to our show today. I'm going to introduce my next guest. He's a gentleman that I met, both him and his wife, at Mar-a-Lago, which I have a lot of fun meeting awesome people down there. There's so many good people that are working behind the scenes, and I really want to encourage everybody to not jump to conclusions so fast. Sometimes we have to let processes work out. Today, we're going to be talking about encouragement, faith. We're both people that, that are, I'm going to just say faith-based, but we're going to elaborate on that a little bit more. With over 35 years of dedicated service in law enforcement, Rolando Silva has established a distinguished career, primarily in command-level leadership roles. He has also held a position of Special State Prosecutor for the 15th Judicial Circuit State Attorney's Office. Rolando earned a Master of Science in Criminal Justice Administration from Lynn University, graduating Summa Cum Laude, and obtained his Juris Doctor from the University of Miami School of Law. He is an active member of both the Florida Bar and the Washington, D.C. Bar. Additionally, Rolando is a graduate of the FBI National Academy's 254th session and the Harvard Kennedy School Senior Executives in State and Local Government Program. And the resume is long, but I'm going to tell you what. I met him and his wife, Lisa, and they have been married for 38 years. And you guys all know I am totally pro-family. So we all work together. My husband and I work together. Our kids work with us. And whenever I see a strong family unit, it leads me to, first of all, have great admiration for that person and their family, but to support them. And I think that this is, after talking about the institutional kidnapping that's gone on with CPS, especially with the Rivera family, we need to realize that there's some very good people in organizations everywhere, and give them a chance to show who they are. And that's what we're going to do today. Morning, Rolla. How you doing?
Hey, good morning, Donna. Thank you for having me on. What a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming on today. It's like we don't get to talk that much when we're at Mar-a-Lago. There's always speakers going on and a lot of noise and such. But we've had enough time to talk that I was excited to talk to you today. And we have some mutual friends that have been encouraging me for months to get you on here. And every time I see them, they're like, "Have you got him on yet? Have you got him on yet?" And it's like, so today's the day.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Greetings from sunny South Florida, where it's very, very hot, but it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day to be alive.
Oh, that's every day is, when you serve God, we serve Jesus Christ, every day is a good day, and it's an adventure. And I think we frame our world a little differently. When bad things happen, which they're going to, you can plan on it, that there are going to be things that are going to be challenges. You look at that as a challenge, and you go past that and say, what good is God going to bring out of it? Because he does everything. The hour before we were talking about cancer, because I got diagnosed with incurable cancer years ago. And so they said, and I went to the cancer doctor 4 times, and I'm like, you guys don't want to cure anything. And I never went back. turns out I'm still here. So there clearly there was a problem with their diagnosis, because God can change anything. You just have to be willing to look for his answers, not the institutional answers from people that have proved that they actually don't care about us. So anyhow,
Wow, what an amazing testimony. It's
yeah.
really, really amazing.
Yeah, it's you don't have to be afraid of anything. You walk through life. So, what do you want to talk about today? Do you want to talk about faith and ethics? What's on your mind today? What would you like to educate people on and give them hope and all good things that are happening right now?
Well, first of all, I appreciate the just the way you frame that. I do like to give people hope. I mean, I try to think about every day, what can I do to, first of all, honor God, right? That's what we're called to do as believers, as part of the flock, if you will, for Jesus Christ. And from that, everything emanates. And so we're I think put on this earth to be fruit, yield fruit, and to be the salt and light, as the scriptures say. So if I'd like to talk about anything, I guess I'd like to talk about wisdom and maybe scriptural wisdom, and perhaps how we can all work together and think about things to be more wise, and therefore more effective, happier, and just live the life that we've been called to live.
I love this. I've been doing Bible studies. I've been putting Bible studies together, and I did one on wisdom recently, and the opposite of that, which is a reprobate mind, and what that looks like when it really is. We have to focus our attention. The answer to this is, where is your attention focused? Are you focused on things that are bad or evil, or are you going towards the direction of God's instruction manual, the Bible? And are you seeking wisdom and discernment, or are you getting so focused in evil things that you start justifying the evil behavior, which is going to take you right straight to hell, in my opinion? You got a choice, and what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bible tells us that we are to search and look for wisdom above anything else, And the book of Proverbs, which, as you know, has been written by Solomon, the wisest guy who ever lived, according to the scriptures. And I think if you're going to listen to anybody to try to learn about, what's wise, let's listen to what Solomon had to say, particularly in the book of Proverbs. So above anything else, let's search and seek for wisdom, I say. And that's why I also, Donna, take time every morning, as part of my routine, is to get up and search the scriptures, on your own, when before the rest of the family wakes up. And it's just a good habit to have every morning. Search the scriptures, try to find out what you can glean either from the Old Testament, from the New Testament, what the word will speak to you in that particular day. And I believe if you posture yourself in a way that you really ask the Lord to give you that wisdom, that he will deliver. Every day he does deliver those nuggets. So take the time to do that, I would say, and I do personally, and I can tell you that every day I'm gaining more and more wisdom, and life was a lot better for everyone else around me as a result.
What were you reading this morning? Were you in Proverbs?
Yeah, well, I was reading a little bit in the Gospels this morning, in particular Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, and if there's one paradigm, one way to look at life as far as spiritual wisdom from that perspective, the way to life, and you kind of alluded to it just a few minutes ago, the way to life, the way that does not lead to hell and death, is difficult sometimes. The narrow is the gate, Jesus would say, and difficult and hard is the way that leads to life. And that could be found in Matthew 7:14. And so look at it from that perspective, meaning, in my mind, anyway, is that the things that ultimately bring you the rewards and the things that you desire in life, you know what? They're going to cost you a little bit of something. They're going to require intentionality on your part, energy, effort, focus. Those things that sometimes we're not inclined to do or want to give, But that's what it's going to require, because do you find it, the scriptures say? And we need to be kind of approaching life with that perspective. And by the way, you see that play out throughout all of life, right?
Yeah.
Think of it from a physiological standpoint. Most people enjoy comforts, or creatures of comforts, as Americans in particular. But you know, as it turns out, living a life of comfort isn't very, very good for your body, as it turns out. What really is good for your body, for your muscles, and for all aspects of your physical body, it requires exercise. It requires discipline. These things in terms of eating, in terms of just the way you live your life. And when you take the easy road, sometimes the broad way, which a lot of people unfortunately take, well, it doesn't lead to quote unquote life, abundant life, and the life that really is there for you if you go and get and go after it. So just in that one small kind of context, I think it's a good example of how that principle holds true. That, difficult is the way that leads to life, that leads to those things that ultimately you want to have. And so keep that in the back of your mind. Sometimes life can be very, very, very challenging. As you mentioned, you went through your bout, through your physical health, and sometimes that kind of throws a curveball your way that you wouldn't expect, and can make you really have to examine who you are and what you believe in. But that's okay, because difficult is the way. Don't lose perspective. Stay focused, as you say, and it will work out. I promise.
Yeah, I kind of like the process of God stripping things away from us that we think is important, that really is a usurpation of our relationship with Him. When we put things like material things, or even our time or our attention, if one of the subjects I've been talking about lately is using every minute of your day to do something that's productive. Even if you're in the grocery store, go up and smile at somebody. Look in the eyes of that cashier. And so this week I actually did that. And I do that. You know me. I talk to everybody all the time, whether I know them or not.
Mhm.
Doesn't make any difference. I can make a friend out of a car, let alone human beings. I'm just a friendly person, right? And so I was talking to a gal in the checkout at the store, in the grocery store. And I just looked at her and I said, you know what? You're really a hero. I don't know if anybody's told you that lately, but you go to work every day and you're what's just so good about America. And the woman just all of a sudden turned to me, and you could tell probably nobody's even validated her existence. And she said, I've got a son and he doesn't do anything and I'm so brokenhearted. And I'm like, and you're holding it all together. That's something to be really proud of. And so to give those encouragement to people,
Yes.
it's an art form to recognize it and take the time to make the world a better place, one person at a time. Or if you see somebody that's doing something harmful, like the choices that you were talking about, get up in the morning, encourage somebody to get in their Bible, offer to sit there with them, or help them if they need to. I mean, what other ways do you encourage people?
Before I answer that question, just Donna, what a great example of being salt and light in this world. Those little things that you do to encourage others, that's exactly what Jesus talks about in terms of serving others. And I think you're bearing great fruit when you do that. But somewhere, somehow, you had that predisposition to want to do that. That's something that most people not only do not have the art form, like you just said, to do it, but wouldn't even be inclined to do it. Why? Right?
Well, I think they're afraid that somebody's going to make fun of them for appearing.
Absolutely.
And it's like, what are you afraid of? We're here to take care of each other. You have no idea how much people are hurting out there from a variety of things that they're great at hiding,
Yeah. So you're amazing. I really appreciate that. That's something I can also work on. That's something that I need to kind of remind myself and keep in the back of my mind as I go out throughout the day. Just the little things, like the garbage man who just comes by. I know I wave at him and try to be friendly, but I can also say things like you just said to her. Man, it's amazing that you're able to get up here every day and do what you do. Not many people can do that. It is hot. It is literally dirty. It's tough, and yet you get up and do it every day. That's amazing. And you never know what that little perspective could do for that person. Certainly will bring a smile to their face. And not only that, here's the real trick. I think the real treasure, it helps us in saying that. Somehow, in a some way I probably cannot explain, that the process of doing that to encourage others really edifies us. And back to your question about what am I doing to try to encourage others to listen. Right now, what I'm involved in a lot is going out to Africa, in a very remote area in Zambia, where there's an orphanage that's next to the Republic of Congo, which anybody who's paying attention to the news knows there's great conflict between Rwanda and the Republic of Congo. And so there's a lot of children being left orphaned. And this school, this called Lusungu's Children's Home, is an orphanage just south of the Republic of Congo in the Copper Belt in Zambia. So we've been going out there now a couple times a year. I'm getting ready to head back out in July. And we're building wells with the orphanage. What's really interesting is we're teaching the kids in the orphanage that there's another level of people that really have dire circumstances. So we go out in the bushes, as they would say, in the village, one called the Fampuya village. And in that village, there's no running water for miles, miles. And so what has to happen for the people living in that region, they have to walk with, you see the buckets on their heads to go get water, just come back for basic necessities. So what we've been able to do since December, this is how good God is. I went with one guy in particular. I took this guy from Jacksonville with me, and he just touched his heart, and he wanted to help these people in that one village. And we built one well. That's about the cost about $6,000. Took about a month to get everything done, but ultimately we built one well. Well, that helps, and that helped a lot. But we were able to. Somebody else came up, stepped up, heard what we're doing. Anyway, long story short, we just built our 7th well since December.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's amazing how that came together. But that's just one example of what we're doing every day to try to be that salt and light like you are being, Donna. And that's just one example of one of the ways I try to encourage. And by the way, the children who are at the school, we just got them some televisions, which is what a big treat for them. And, taking them out of the school to go get some food somewhere else. It's all these little things while we're there. We usually spend a couple weeks there. That really, really just makes their day. And I'd love to share some video with you one day of how the smiles it brings to their faces and how much they're encouraged.
That's awesome. I love stories like this where people are actually doing something. I think that we get around, you and I go to a lot of events and such, and you see a lot of people talking. That doesn't cut it with me anymore.
No.
It's like, what are people actually doing? I don't want to hear all the wisdom that they think that they have in the whole world when they're just building audiences. That's all they're doing and doing it for money. I want to see, what are people actually doing to restore the nation? What are they doing to stop this injustice system that we have going on out there, where they're, that's what I see a lot. We just had a situation in Michigan where the Attorney General just let the Secretary of State acknowledge that she broke the law, but said, well, we're just not going to do anything about it. And the lack of proper, I don't know. I think
justice.
Yes, and the lack of proper justice. When people, why is there a 2-tier system out there? And why aren't there more of us like me? I'm filing pro se. And that's kind of, to hold people accountable. But why is it that everybody's so silent? What are you afraid of? If people see something that's patently wrong, you've got to say something, or you're complicit in it, or stand in front of the threat, or help when you see somebody that's really compromised. Don't go back in your cave. Don't go into running away from it to your safe spot. The only safe spot we have is to hit these issues head on and resolve them as adults do.
Well, Donna, first, again, I commend you. Not everybody has the capacity and the courage that you've demonstrated. straight when you do these things. So in all fairness, I do hear what you're saying, and you can always try to inspire people to think along those lines by doing it yourself. But a lot of people just don't have that. I don't want to say initiative, but a sense of their own ability to try to pursue stuff like that. They're not built that way, if you will. And that's okay. But what you're trying to do, and what I think is right, and is to tell people, hey, think about these things. At least consider them. Try to go out there and do what I'm doing. And I understand maybe you won't have everything you need to perhaps do it at the level that I'm doing it, but nonetheless, consider pursuing what's right, right? And so I appreciate everything you're doing and saying, because ultimately we all need to be like that. We really should be more like that. But again, I would say that a lot of people just simply don't have that confidence, and maybe even the competence to do the things that you're doing.
What other things, when we talk about ethics, like you've got 35 years in law enforcement, you've worked in, just your resume is amazing, totally amazing. Tell us some stories that can inspire everybody that you've seen over the years, as well as, just whatever you want to talk about.
Well, law enforcement, doing it well is not easy, as you can imagine. And I've been very fortunate, started off when I was very, very young at 19 years of age. Once I was elected the president of my police academy, and then I realized, okay, leadership is probably where my true talents are going to lie in the law enforcement world. And I know to be the best leader, I had to have the best education. So I went ahead and went for it on all levels, as high as I could go. Ultimately, even going to law school and getting to study at Harvard. Look, the main thing I would tell people that are listening in regards to law enforcement, there's some real bad things that can happen. In fact, I don't know if you can see behind me, there's a motorcycle I have.
Yeah, I see that.
I was a motorman for a while, and I kept this as a relic of my past. But I love my old Harley Davidson police motorcycle. And we just lost 3 officers late last year, and the president and Eric Trump were there at the funeral. In fact, yesterday they just announced that their families were awarded the Medal of Sacrifice. First time this medal was created, and they thought about something like that when they were attending the funeral, which I was at that funeral. And by the way, those guys, they literally worked for me. One of them worked for me directly. The other guy was my training corporal, and the other guy I used to work the streets with. And so they were very good men, and they lost their lives very tragically. They were sitting on the side of the road, and this lady just evidently lost control of her vehicle and killed all 3 of them at one time. So that kind of thing can happen at any time in law enforcement. It's not just pulling over cars in the middle of the night that can be very dangerous, or going in the houses looking for fugitives, and going to a domestic violence case where the husband, is from the get-go planning on killing the cops. Those things happen, but it's also the other things that can happen in life. A freak accident, like sitting on the side of the road and getting ran over by a nurse, of all people, who obviously was living a virtuous life. She just made a horrible mistake. And so the tragedies that come out of this profession, I just consider myself very fortunate to have completed the 35 years, get to retire. And now what I do is try to go and speak to law enforcement throughout the world. Actually, I've gone to Puerto Rico and addressed the Puerto Rican state police. I've been to Haiti and addressed the Haitian National Police at their police academy. I try to do what I can to encourage law enforcement. It's the most noble and honorable profession. I really believe that. That's why I got into it at 19 years of age. I believe what we do there is what upholds democracy. I believe it's what allows families to flourish. Without law and order, think about it. Donna, we wouldn't have a society. And the people that are paid to do that every day, to uphold the law, is law enforcement. So I just think it's one of the most important professions, and anything I can do to help improve, encourage, inspire people in that world to be better, to be the best law enforcement person they can be, I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to probably do it till the day I die. God willing, He'll give me the energy and the wherewithal and everything I need to continue to kind of go in that direction. But anyway, those are a couple stories I can share with you from my experience. I got many others, but I don't want to dwell too long on that.
Oh, I don't know. This is your time. I think you should go ahead and talk about more of it, and or just even things that are ethical questions. Decisions that have to be made. Anything like that. I mean, this is our time to talk about. I mean, literally, this is like having coffee with a friend. So whichever direction you want to go in, I'm open to it, and things that maybe are on your mind or that you want other people to know.
Well, again, I'm trying to underscore what I would like people to understand is how difficult the job can be. Well, everybody said, well, I know a cop and, he's and this guy or that guy, and I had experiences with him, and I don't see anything that special. Look, I forget how many police officers there are in the whole country, but I can tell you it is difficult going after people that have broken the law and do not care about pretty much anybody but themselves and how they can get away with the things that they decide to try to get away with. Bad things happen in that environment. Another story I would share with you: when I was a commander out in one of the districts in the Glades where we live in South Florida, is a very remote area. Two of my officers were killed in line of duty they were trying to lay out stop sticks again for a stolen car that was going really fast, and they were trying to catch this bad guy. He was a bad person that was in that stolen car. And unfortunately, the bad guy did get these stop sticks, or things you lay out on the roadway, and they have like spikes. And so as the bad guy's car drives over them, they blow out their tires, and therefore they can't continue to speed away. They ultimately have to stop. But what happened, unfortunately, is the canine officer who was following the bad guy, as these two officers went out on the street to try to retrieve the stop sticks, the canine officer ran over him. So essentially, he was killed by like what we tantamount to friendly fire. That was tragic, and that was tragic for the family. One guy was 26 years old, had his whole life ahead of him, and it was very unfortunate the way they died, obviously, but. So the question becomes, what do you do when life throws you a real hard curveball like that? We ended up helping those families the best we could. In fact, I think we're celebrating Peace Week this week in Washington, D.C., which is Police Officers Week. And I know during that time back in 2007, we took all the family members, we raised money to bring them up to the law enforcement memorial in Washington, D.C., so they all could be honored the way they deserve to be honored. But nothing replaces those guys, and it was a very tough situation. But just one other example how things can go wrong in this profession. And again, I'm just very grateful that I've gotten through it. And now I just want to do what I can in terms of trying to support those that are still in the profession. But look, adversity happens to all of us, and you know what? Something maybe I'd like to talk about, if you're inclined, is how to overcome adversity.
Love it.
How to get through life when life is hard. And that's why I look for scriptural wisdom that comes from the Bible. But there's also, there's wisdom everywhere. There are books. There are many books on the shelves written about how to be successful in life, how to get through tough things. The question is, who's reading them, right? What good if nobody reads them? And so I try to spend a lot of time reading even secular books just to learn basic wisdom and get a good understanding, a deep understanding of how to be successful, particularly in the context of being a leader. So
what are some of the books you like to read that are in your top? Like if you had a top 10 list, what would they be?
Well, I can tell you, Ryan Holiday is a great author. Do you know who he is by any chance?
I do not.
He's written several, I think, great books, and they're not long, hard to read books, so anybody can grab them. And one of the books, which is the first book that turned me on to him, is "Ego is the Enemy." Ego is the enemy. As soon as I saw that title at the bookstore, I said, let me look into that book just a little bit, because that's something I knew kind of intuitively for the longest time. Being in law enforcement and a lawyer, um, look, we're surrounded by alpha males and alpha females in this profession, and what I've come to realize, it's most of the time that ego or that personality doesn't bode well for you.
There you
It's
go.
the paradox. It's the big paradox, right? You need to be an alpha male to be able to do the kind of things, or alpha female to do the kind of things that you need to do in these professions. You wouldn't have gone into them if you didn't have that type of personality. But at the same token, the ego is truly the enemy. And so, reading his books, another one he's got is called "Stillness is the Key." And sometimes as you go through the tough parts in life, you have to realize, what's in play, and how to stay still and trust certain things in order to get through those tough times. And the other one is one of the other good books I just read, called "The Obstacle is the Way." And "The Obstacle is the Way" is another great book he wrote, which just deals with having that mindset. I wrote a piece that was published in the largest publication for law enforcement, called "Reset Leadership." And the big takeaway there, and this is going back many years, maybe 25 years when I wrote it, um, it was that we have to understand how to hit that reset button, because when the curveballs come our way, we have to recognize they throw us off our game. And we don't even realize it sometimes, but we're actually doing things in a way that's undermining ourselves. And how to recognize when you're in that mode, and the ability to hit that reset button and come back from that, that's the key to life. That's the key to life. I really believe it. Perseverance is the key to life. That was Winston Churchill who once coined the frame. Well, actually, I think he said at a speech one time, a commencement speech, he got up, he said 17 words, and then he sat down. And his admonishment to the whole group, the whole class, graduating class, is never, ever, ever, and he said it X amount of times, give up. And then he got out of the podium and sat down, got off the podium and sat down. Never giving up. But it's just how you don't give up. That's what we all need to learn. It presupposes that you don't want to give up. You're a winner, and you want to win at life no matter what, but you can't ever give up. And sometimes genius is disguised in persistence. So we just have to learn how to do that in life. And so if I could share one nugget of wisdom, not necessarily scriptural, but it is based on scriptural precepts, but also just wisdom in general, is knowing how to persevere, and anticipating the fact that you will have to persevere through life's challenges. And one of the key ways, again, learning and understanding and appreciating how the ego, your feeling of self-importance, your feeling of how you look at yourself, how that can tend to undermine you where that ego is inflated. And that will undermine you completely. So let's be smart, because we're all just trying to make our way through life. We're all I think a lot of us are trying to do the best they can. I know I am. And I want to help others along the way, because we're called to be servants. Those, again, who believe what the scriptures say, and so we can pull others up along the way. At the same time, we're trying to learn how to navigate life ourselves.
I really love that, and expecting the fails that are going to come.
Yes.
I think, and I think we need to reform this whole thing of failing and such. If you keep going, you're already a winner. Is
Amen.
Basically what you've just said. So, but also expecting that on everything that we do, we're going to encounter obstacles. If we don't, it's probably not a fight worth fighting.
Amen. And absolutely. And the whole thing is, life is not a fairy tale. Life is not a fairy tale. life comes at you in ways that you can't even begin. I've seen it many times. The reason I retired from law enforcement, by the way, I was going to keep going, but a very tragic situation happened in my town where I was a chief over here in Wellington, Florida. And, 3 young children were left orphaned because the father decided to kill the mother and kill himself. As it turned out, I knew the mother very and not very closely. It's kind of an attenuated way, but my wife knew the grandmother, and ultimately, from the night it happened, those children came to live with us. So I knew I would have to take them, and then I had to be the father for a 7-year-old at the time, a 1-year-old, and a 12-year-old. Father figure anyway. And I knew I couldn't continue to work and do both. So here I was going to Africa all this time to try to help those children over there. I got a heart for kids because I lost my dad when I was very young, and I know how difficult it was growing up poor and things like that. And so anyway, and God gave me this situation where I had to take care of orphans here. But thank God they're all doing very well. I'm getting ready to go tonight, going to one of the 12-year-olds graduate. Well, now he's 13 and he's graduating from middle school. And anyway, life is challenging, to say the least. Life is challenging. Even when you think you've made it, even when things are going well, I hate to say it, don't get too comfortable because something's coming around the corner. It's just the way it is.
God
It's just
knocks
the
you
way
right off
life
that
is.
little pedestal sometimes if your ego
Yeah.
gets in the way and says,
Yeah.
oh, like a dad, I love dad wisdom, right? Oh, you think you know so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Prepare. Build your house on that rock, on that foundation that when the storms of life do come, and they will come, you're prepared and you're ready to persevere through them and get through them. And then on the other side of it, there's some great blessings coming, by the way. So life is a little bit of valleys and mountaintops, valleys, mountaintops, valleys. And you're going to have a lot more mountaintops and valleys. I don't want to paint a bleak picture, but you got to anticipate the valleys.
Well, sometimes you have a lot of valleys because of our own stupidity, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, I think we create a lot of our own problems ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, it's sort of like dad picking you up. God is dad. Dad picks you up, you're learning to walk, and you fall. And he's got picks you up, lets you try it again and again and again and again and again. And some of the other things that we do to sabotage ourselves. That isn't God's fault. We can't blame God for our stupidity.
Yeah, no, we can't.
We just got to
I'm guilty of that, boy. By the way, there's some things in life I wish I could have, not have done, and brought myself such trouble. But anyway.
I think we can all say that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there was only one that walked this earth that was perfect, and his name is Jesus. Yeah. And I don't think anybody else has quite mastered that. So
not at all.
I think that goes into the kind of a companion subject to this would be forgiveness. Forgiveness when somebody wrongs you, or not getting offended if somebody offends you, because you're going to get offended by people. There's very few people that can just look as an observer and go, you're kind of cute, but you're annoying. I mean,
you hit on something that's so good that I wanted to mention is that, scriptural wisdom in many ways is paradoxical to normal conventional thoughts. And in other words, the Bible is counterintuitive in many, many ways. For instance, we're told that we need to forgive. You mentioned forgiveness. We're to forgive people who hurt us, not for any other reason than you are told you need to forgive them, because we wouldn't want to forgive anybody that would hurt us, right? I guess God made that such a priority, I think, because of our failings as human beings. He knows we're going to hurt people. We just are. We're just so fallible. We're gonna always be hurting others. And in order to keep things going, we need to be quick to forgive. And I know that plays out in the spouse relationship. That plays out in the parent-child relationship. We always have to be ready and in a constant posture of forgiveness. But think about the other counterintuitive ways. Jesus says, hey, when your enemy is thirsty, give him something to drink. That way of thinking.
That was a doing thing, an activity. I like that.
Yeah. So excuse me, people are texting me here.
That's all right.
He the counterintuitive nature of spiritual wisdom and what the Jesus tells us is ultimately so different than the others and the rest of the world, right? And but again, what did we say at the beginning? Difficult is the way that leads to life, and few find it. But believe me, you want to enter that narrow gate. That's the way to live the best life. And it requires faith and trust in God in order to do those things that He's asking us to do or telling us really we should be doing. And as long as you have real faith, you will be able to accomplish those things and do them. And I promise you, it always works out. It always works out when you apply His word and do it His way. It's when we don't do it His way and try to handle it our way, our normal physical inclination, wants to do. That never works out. And forgiveness is the best example of how to live a life that will bring you what it is you're looking for. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Well, I love this dad wisdom thing going on here. I love this. That you get a couple of veteran parents, which you and I are veteran parents,
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing. When I look at the younger generation, and this is where I'm going to go. Younger generation. You look at the younger generation, and they're so lost because of so many reasons. But they're waking up at a large and very quick rate. And I feel so encouraged. I feel so encouraged of that. But to anyone who's older, the Bible talks about, older women teaching younger women. And, being that example, being moms and dads that never give up that responsibility that God gives us to help the people around us and share with them some of our experience that might be helpful, because I love it when younger people think we don't know what's going on. I think it's absolutely hilarious. How, you don't understand our generation. You don't understand what we've gone through. Really?
As
I was there
when we were younger. Yeah. We did the same when we were young.
I remember being there, and I didn't exactly just crawl out of a rock and all of a sudden be 60 years old. Had to go through the process of getting here, getting a few wrinkles, which I'm actually very proud of. Actually, I wouldn't go back for one day.
Yeah. Well, Donna, again, kudos to you for
and so
desiring to
we always pray at the end. And I'd like to, if you'd like me to pray, I can, but I would love to hear you pray.
Well, why don't we both pray?
Okay, that's great.
You can start off, and then I'll finish up.
That sounds fantastic. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for everyone out there who is working for your good purposes here on this world. And we ask that you would give them a special dose of encouragement today and your presence with them. Let them know that you're walking with them every step of the day, every minute of their life. There's no accidents. There's no coincidences. You are here and you help us handle all situations that we're faced with. And we're thankful for that, because you've got like the bird's eye view on everything. You know what's coming, you know what's before us and what's also coming ahead, and you're on that road before we're even there. Thank you so much for that confidence in walking forward and doing whatever it is that you ask us to do. We are not asking for an easy path. We're asking for the feet to walk whatever path it is that you lay before us, knowing that we will have your guidance, your strength, your discernment, your love, your provision, and your help every step of the way in Jesus Christ. And let your favor rest strongly upon Rollo and his family and Lisa and their children and everyone they come in contact with. Give them a larger voice and an influence around people that is healing, unifying, and directs people to you and salvation in Christ.
Amen. And Father, just to conclude, we're so grateful. We're so grateful for Donna and the work she's doing with this podcast, this format. Father, I ask you continue to bless her, Lord, as she continues to spread her wisdom and her encouragement to others, God, especially as it glorifies you, Father. And Lord, she's bold and she's courageous and she's very bright. Let others know that, God, because we're redeemed, Father, those of us that are redeemed by putting our faith in Christ, God, they know, and we know, God, that everything we do is going to be okay, because Lord, you're merciful and you're faithful, and because of your goodness in our lives, even if we make a mistake, we know, God, that you're there to quickly bring us back up, Father. Help us be wise according to your word, Lord, and may that be the hallmark of this podcast, this program that Donna has going and going forward, Father. And I pray this, all of it, and thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I
You're
really
very welcome.
I'd love to have you come back on again. Maybe we could bring
For
forward
sure.
some other faith issues and talk about issues, because I think we've got some difficulties coming forward, and I think people will really appreciate the encouragement, as well as veteran moms and dads who have gone through a lot of stuff and really aren't afraid of the future. We're kind of looking forward to it. And God bless President Trump. We love him so much, and all those who stand with him.
So grateful that God put him where he is. Without him, I can only imagine where this country would be, the rest of the world, actually. So
yeah, I really
Donna,
appreciate that. So we're going to go to that part of the show, boys and girls. And so this is what we do, just so you know. Ding, 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 ding. Go to brandenburgforgovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who's ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to have a discussion with the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump. Wearing cowboy boots, we're going to see who wears it better, and then we'll have one of those discussions, one of those come to Jesus moments, which for us is a great thing, because we can sit and celebrate together. So with that said, everyone out there, God bless you. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. Everything you do, you can do with purpose. Open your eyes, see the world around you, see other people, their hurts, just smile at them once in a while. All you got to do, you don't even have to have any wisdom as much as just be human and smile at people and let them see one glimmer of hope. You may be the only one they see in a day, because we don't know what people live with, or what they live through, or the challenges or the burdens that they carry every day. And you might be that person today that God sends to them to change everything. So go out and be your best self. It's going to be a great day. I'll be on tomorrow with Liberty Essentials with the normal crew, Bill, Ralph, and Karen. And then Greg Martini will be on after that. We're going to be talking about notices again, and doing notices to our public functionaries to tell them what we don't want them to do and what we want them to do, to instruct them to do something, not just talk, but do things. So stay on the line a minute. I'm going to end the broadcast. And this is where we have really good discussions, guys, after we get off the broadcast. I wish you could be here, but one of these days I'll just leave the camera rolling. But anyhow, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.